going on, guys? So in this one, I wanted to talk to you about how do you change your self-image or your identity. So much of what you do, kind of the experiences you have, how you evaluate your life, how you derive meaning from what happens to you is dependent on your self-image or your identity of yourself. If you go into a situation with one identity, you're going to have a different outcome. If you go into that same situation with a totally different identity of who you are, how you're supposed to show up, what you expect of yourself, you're going to get a totally different outcome. So the question comes up, hey, how do I change my self-identity? How do I change the way I feel and I view myself? Well, I want to give you 3 ideas that you can kind of put into play in your life, 3 kind of ways to kind of evaluate and to kind of integrate into how you think about yourself and how you actually approach your life and how the things that you say and how you kind of put them together and how you interact with other people. I'm going to give you 3 ideas and 3 kind of strategies of doing that, right? So let's just get right into it. So the first thing is this. Anytime you speak to anyone, never ever look at yourself or talk about yourself in a negative light. Never present what you're doing in a negative light. So here's what I mean. So often you get people that say, hey, you know what? When do you want to get fitter, or when do you want to start that business? And the response is, I just don't know if I'm organized enough, or, I'm just kind of lazy right now, or, I'm not that considerate of a person, or I'm just not that disciplined to do that, or I don't have the natural skills to start a business, or I don't have the patience to take care of another person. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, you'll see that other people just start describing themselves and talking about themselves in such a negative light. That's the worst thing you can do, is to describe yourself negatively, to describe what you're doing in a frame that doesn't really serve you. So that leads me to the second thing. Well, how do you go about it then? How do you actually describe who you want to be and how you want to get there? So essentially, the first thing you got to do is realize that anytime you want to describe yourself, you have to take a look at who you want to become, take that, and bring that person to the present. So here's what this means. So let's say you want to be more consistent, or let's say you want to be more thoughtful, or more disciplined, or more charismatic, or you want to be more confident, or you want to come across more of a loving person. Whoever you want to be tomorrow, or you want to be more focused. Whoever you want to be tomorrow, start describing yourself from that point of view. And the way to do that is to, when someone asks you, hey, how's your workout going? Or how are you feeling these days? Rather than saying, I just don't feel that great. Oh man, I've been so lazy. Rather than saying that, saying, you know what? I'm getting more consistent. I'm getting more healthier. Or I'm getting to see how important it is to actually make better decisions about the foods I eat. Or I'm getting to be this. That's the tactic. You put the first 2 words that you put into that sentence, I'm getting, and then describe your future self. I'm getting, and then describe your future self. So whoever you want your future self to be, think of that. Maybe it's more positive. Maybe it's more thoughtful. Maybe it is more disciplined, more stronger, more healthier. Take that word, take that description, and before that description, add in, I'm getting to be. I'm getting to be more thoughtful. I'm getting to be more healthier. You see, when you start describing yourself in the frame of reference of who you want to become, you slowly start moving towards that description. You start kind of redefining who you currently are, so you move towards who you want to be. You see, you have to be really mindful, and you have to kind of stand guard at your mind and on your tongue of how are you discriminating against your best self. And we do it all the time. We kind of undermine ourselves. We think of ourselves in negative ways. We have these stories of limitations and these thoughts and these that we keep replaying in our head of why we can't do something. And then we put words around this And then we describe ourselves in those words. So I want you to flip it up. Use those two words. I'm getting, and then the description of who you want to be. Number 3, realize this. Everyone has baggage. Everyone has crap that they've been through. So here's the thing. You have to realize that what you've been through, and maybe you're going through some stuff right now, whatever it is, it doesn't define you. It doesn't define you. It only refines you. You see, this was a huge insight for me. The things that you go through, they don't define who you are. They just refine who you're becoming, right? So if you look at it from that point of view that, hey, yeah, I went through this. It doesn't really define me. It doesn't really say that I'm this person. It just really just refines who I am becoming. And it's actually just moving me into becoming the person I want to be tomorrow. That's all it does. And here's the thing. Whatever negative thing that happened in that situation, it doesn't live in you. It just lives in that situation. It's just what happened in that situation. They broke up with you. It doesn't mean you're a total idiot. It doesn't mean that you were the one that did something wrong. It doesn't mean that you were the person at fault or you were not good enough. It just means that they broke up with you. That's all it means. Or they fired you, or you lost a job, or you didn't do that well in that situation. That's okay. You just didn't do that well in that situation. That doesn't mean you are defined by that situation. You see, when you start giving yourself the freedom of realizing that you're not defined by a situation, you can now start refining who you are today. So that way you can move towards who you want to be tomorrow. You see, the things that we went through don't define us, they only refine us. So that's the third one. And if you use these 3 tactics, where you never describe yourself in a negative light, never use negative descriptions around who you are. And number 2, you always use the words, I'm getting in your future self to be more confident. I'm getting to be more disciplined. I'm getting to be more thoughtful. I'm getting to be more, consistent. Whatever it is you want to become, use the words, I'm getting to be in front of that description whenever someone asks you how you're doing, rather than saying, I'm just so lazy, or I just had a tough week. The week's getting to be better. Use those words to describe and to move yourself into that area of who you want to become, not what you're necessarily feeling right now. Who do you want to become? And lastly, realize that things that you've been through, they don't define you. They only refine you. So if you are committed to these 3 principles of realizing these 3 things and integrating these 3 ways of operating your mind, operating how you feel about yourself, you'll find that you're going to totally flip your self-image. You're totally going to dive into that new identity of who you want to become rather than who you think you're not. You see, it's all in your head. The stories you play, the thoughts of limitation, the things that you need, that your feelings of validation, you think you need that approval from someone. Well, you don't. You have to get rid of those stories of limitation. You have to start redefining and who you are and start being intentional and choose who you want to become. And you can do that by integrating these 3 things into how you operate and how you talk and about yourself and how you engage with other people when they ask you questions about how you're doing. Does that make sense? I hope that made sense. Leave me your thoughts in the comments. Love making these for you. I will see you on the next one. As always, live inspired.